I'm printing out the push plate. I've done some bits of modifications to this so that I'll move the bearing a bit forward so there's a bit of gap to adjust. This is for a quick release belt drive system. The bed is set to 70 here. No painter's tape obviously, PLA. But really what I'm going to talk about is more to do with the fan I've fitted, just fitted recently. Let me show you the display first. I'm going to show you this. Hopefully you can see that 2.5 hours, just slightly over, this has been going. And this here is going to my Vichy VC99 down here. I have, that's a temperature sort of probe. Oops. So it's 42 at the moment. I am keeping a bit of a record of this. So 2 hours 30 call it. So it's still getting, that's probably about as hot as I would want to go, 42. It's inside the shoebox. That's with this Silent 8 fan. Just let me move you a bit closer. So the Silent 8 fan is actually on this heatsink, which is underneath this, because this was getting very hot. It's warmish, well, quite warmish. Let me feel this heatsink on the side. Yes, that's pretty hot. This heatsink always gets pretty hot. I fitted these two heat sinks on the outside, the sort of, I think the MOSFET heat sinks, to be honest. I fitted an internal fan, 25mm fan, to try and keep this cool. This is a car voltage drops down from 12 volts to, sorry, it drops down from 24 volts from the power supply to 12 volts, which I power the ramps LEDs from. I do have another fan in the back of this box, computer fan, blowing air sort of across here. There's a big hole underneath here, and that. The fan is actually, the Silent 8 fan is pushing the heat out, because I didn't want it pushing the heat into this cheapo shoebox yet. I know, look at the state of it, okay. That seems to be working well. It's still getting a, what I would call borderline temperature, 43 there, centigrade. So let's go back to the print a bit. Let me move this camera down. I just want to try some other lights. So, adding a couple of extra lights to this. And let me try, just experiment with lights here. Let me try this one off. Back on. So that's my left light. I'll try my big right hand light off. On, certainly makes a difference. Trying the camera light on. I do have LEDs actually on the printer, off, on. That makes a difference. Just trying the camera light. Got other big lights on the left. Look, it does fill in a bit of shadows here, that's where the position is, and this certainly, the one on the right also helps a bit. So having all the lights on does help, I think. Oops. That's just for my own personal use to check this video later on. It's coming on to 43 there, pushing 45 sometimes on this Vinci VC99, the temperature, so it does vary a bit. As I say, that's been going 2.5 hours. There's definitely heat coming out the box because I can feel it when I put my hand there. And heat coming underneath the box because the box is actually stood on some cardboard squares glued onto the bottom of the box. Let me show you that again. I won't show you the cardboard squares. So there's an actual gap under this box. Move this out the way. Just an old shoe box. And I can feel warm air blowing here. I can feel warm air blowing through all these gungy holes drilled in the side. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to really do too neat a job, but I can certainly feel warm air coming out there. That's with the fan in the back of this box. As I say, there's a fan in the back and that's sort of blowing air forward, but this other fan is blowing air down and out through this bottom gap. So that bottom gap is all the way around the edge. You certainly feel the warmth there. Actually a bit worried that's blowing on the back of this box I made for this cardboard, just super glued together. Yeah, it looks a mess, but it holds it. The display there, LCD 12864. I am printing off the SD card on this display. So that's going quite well there. Last famous words he says. I have known prints get halfway through, which this is about halfway through I estimate, and then the whole layer shift. And I think the layer shifting it's either possibly to do with these bearings, because they do make a grating sound when they go left and right. I have been waiting for new bearings, linear bearings. I did try some of these plastic ones, but those were actually wobbling. The whole cabbage was wobbling, not a lot, but a bit as it was moving left and right. At least with these, the cabbage doesn't wobble. So I can't recommend these sort of plastic type of bearings that are supposed to be very good, so that people tell you, it's supposed to be silent, etc, etc, etc. This does have supports on, so it might look a little bit rough around the edges there. Using cooler to slice this. It's mainly just to talk about that Silent 8 fan. I'm very pleased with that Silent 8 fan. Helps keep that whole box clean, cooler, because the whole box was feeling pretty warm when I opened it inside. When I open it now, it's not quite so warm. I can certainly feel that it is cooler with that Silent 8 fan on, and it's a lot quieter than the other fan I was using. Right, I'm going to pause the camera, and then I'll probably, when I come back, I'll probably show you some more video if well, we'll see how things go, unless, you know, I notice any faults. So as I say, this is what I'm terming as a push plate. It's to go on a feeder like a quick release, and it like moves, well, hinges forward and backwards. There'll be a skateboard bearing in that sort of dent there. This thing on the left is just like a thing that you can push, well, hold it and move it about with if you need to. Right, you'll watch this a few more moments, and I'm going to turn the camera off. auto leveling is still working there. That's moving the carriage up and down slightly to allow for the bed not maybe being totally level. Right, let's quickly have a look. I've slowed this printer down quite a bit here, by the way. Try and improve the print qualities. Okay, let's stop the camera now. Still going well, 3 hours 19 minutes into this print. Just have a look at the temperature on this thing, 47 degrees. Yep. 47 and a half, because it's fluctuating between 47 and 48 there. I must admit I am seriously thinking about getting a 12 volt power supply instead of using this drop down unit. I mean, this drop down unit works reasonably well. Sometimes I think I still get a bit of flicker on these LEDs when the PWM of the thermostat on the ramps sort of comes in and switches on and off. I think it's causing these LEDs to flicker, even though in theory it's on a separate circuit, because there's two like things on this drop down voltage unit, 24 to 12 volt drop down. There's a 30 amp if I remember right and a 0.5 amp. The LEDs are on 0.5 amp, but I am pushing it with these because I've got all my fans, all my LEDs on this 0.5 amp drop down side, and I've got the ramps like coming to the 30 amp side. And one reason I put the LEDs on the 0.5 side is to try and keep it separate from the ramp side, which, as I say, and I know it's a PWM because it's only when it starts getting to temperature on the hot end and it starts switching on and off to do the PWM of the hot end that the LEDs actually flicker at all. But sometimes those have been causing me like a bit of an issue, not a major issue, just a small amount of flicker there on these, particularly on these LEDs I think, on the hot end. Basically 4 3 volt LEDs in series there, and they all loop together, so there's more than just 4. I'll show how many LEDs there are on. But it's just a couple of sheets of cardboard, the windings between the 2 sheets and hot glue around the edge. Works reasonably well for now. So as you see there, it's going okay. Long print, like for a small part like this, it's still a long print, 5 hours 21 minutes. But as I say, I have asked this printer to go a bit slower, especially with these bearings, which I'm pretty sure cause me problems. These rods are what are known as optical smooth rods, and those have been a major, or quite a big improvement, because before I put optical smooth rods on the sort of y-axis going up and down there, it was wobbling quite a bit as it was going up and down. but putting the optical smooth rods has helped. I'm going to turn the camera off in a few more moments, just let it do a little bit more here. And then I'll come back in about half an hour or so. I did move these are like homemade clamps from wires, you know, like you pull wire in and you get an O-ring, or you can get a spade clamp. Flatten that out, and that's the loop there. But what these were sticking up, and it did catch your spare touch a bit, so I flattened those down. Grips this bed fine. It's an aluminium bed with a heat pad directly under that, some sheets of cardboard, cork as well, and a couple of pieces of aluminium. There's some warmth getting through to the bottom of this. I can feel that that's pretty warm. This is set to 70 on the top. That's even with cork and cardboard here. I wouldn't say majorly hot, but certainly a bit on the warm side there. It's 3 hours 43 minutes into this print, which is estimated to be going to take 5 hours 21 minutes. Let me check the temperature on the unit I have inside again. 48, from 47 to 48, so that's 47.5 degrees. Seems to be printing well. No shifts and layers, which is good. I notice a bit like juddering there. Put the light on. There's a like juddering there. I do not particularly like that sort of juddering part. And that's what I'm calling it, juddering. This is using Cooler to slice this. 190 for the nozzle, B3D version 6.4 nozzle on there. The bed is set to 70 degrees, printing onto blue painter's tape, which was cleaned off with isopropylene alcohol. Printing in PLA. Zoom out a bit. And Move the camera up a bit. I'm hoping to catch this juddering. It seems to be happening every so often. It's 1.75 PLA, black of course, although it did measure more neither 1.7. Using ramps, of course. I mean, it seems to be printing very well indeed at the moment. No slippage, no layer shifting. Can't see any curling on there. This does have supports on this model because there are a few overhangs. Hoping in a way to catch some juddering. Of course, never work with animals or children or 3D printers, because then it won't do what you wanted to do at the time that you wanted to do it. So, having this other light on actually seems to make a bit of a shadow over that side. A little bit of the juddering there, but it did seem a bit worse for part of it. The X steppers and the Y steppers are pretty hot, even though they do have heat sinks on. The extruder is quite hot. The X and Y ones are very hot, I would say, feeling them. Those do have heat sinks on my steppers. You see the part of the heat sink there. Let's remove this over. So the heat sinks are actually cemented on with some heat cement, not bolted on. I found problems trying to get the bolts into the fins and such like, so I just cemented them on. Those have been fine. They stick on there very well. There's the spool of PLA I'm using. This is a sheet of cardboard, because there's a door here. Obviously if that door is open it's going to create a draft, so this just an old cardboard box cut to bits, and my spool holder that I cobbled together is almost on that and holding it up to a certain extent, so that helps stop any drafts coming over to the printer over here. There's a big computer fan, 200 by 230 I think they're known as. There's 230 tall and 200 really diameter. There's a carbon filter directly behind that fan. I might move that actually. I might put more on the front of the fan because I keep putting my fingers in here. There's another fan inside that box. Put that light on there. So there's another fan actually inside this just cardboard box. And there is another fan inside. I'll repeat that again. I think it's 140 mil high static pressure fan that's blowing air out, and it's blowing air out through a HEPA filter that I've taken off an old vacuum cleaner. So basically this is like a cardboard box in its base, but that's just a bit different. This is powered off a USB going through like a boost converter. I'll just show you the back of this. So there's a HEPA filter. I think it's off a what's known as a vacuum cleaner, and I can take that out and clean it. This is getting a bit like covered in dust, this carbon filter on the front. As I say, quite often I'll jam my fingers in here. So it's coming off a USB wall wart at the moment. I do have a switch on top. Let me turn it off a little bit and slow it down a bit faster. It takes a bit of time to slow down because it's a good fan this. You might see the carbon filter behind. You see that it is pretty much covered in dust to a certain extent. It needs cleaning. I'll probably do that after this print, but that helps filter any particles out. Now I think get a little bit of back pressure off this, so it's not all blown out the back, some of it's bouncing back forwards. That's one reason I put the fan inside. At the moment I've stood this on this cardboard box on this old control unit for an old video, I think it is, video tape deck, just to give it a bit more gap under here to let the air out. I'm going to have to stand that up a bit higher. It was about 5mm high. Now there's a good space out there for any warm air to blow out the bottom of this shoe box, where basically I have all my electronics in. Power supply 24 volts and a step down 24 to 12 volts. That's what's giving off all the heat. Ramps on the left. There's a solid state relay for controlling the heat pad via the ramps. And there's another fan in there, as I say, computer fan to blow the air forward. And I certainly can feel the warmth here coming out these holes I drilled in here, and I can feel the warmth underneath. LCD in another sort of cobbled together cardboard box. Yeah, it's a mess, I know. Well, seems to work okay. Hopefully you can see that, especially I think if I turn this other light off. We've nearly enough 4 hours into this print. And the bed's set to 70, so that's the target temperature on the top. This is the actual temperature below that for the bed. Here's the nozzle, 190 set to, and it is at 190. Shows the X, Y, Z sort of positions here. It does have a fan symbol on here, but the only fan I have on this printer, on the actual printer, is on the hot end, which is came with the E3D version 6 hot end. That's to keep the hot end cool in the top, and these fins you might see. So basically we only want really down near the nozzle getting hot. We don't want the rest getting hot. Board and feeding system. Being fed from a belt drive feeder. LED strips stuck all on, just about all round on this printer, some on the side here. See the light coming off them. LEDs round the hot end. So I'll let you watch this a few moments more, and then I'll turn the camera back off and I'll come back in about another half hour or so, I think, give or take a bit. So away we are now, 3 hours, well, nearly enough 4 hours into this print, so it should be, well, Coover said 5 hours 21 minutes, but it's very optimistic saying that. I found it probably take another half hour over that. I am printing out at Just a second, let me remind myself. I think it's, yep, 70%. I asked for 50% like speed on this. So 70% infill on a 70-degree heat bed. 1.2 bottom shells and 1.2. So the 70% infill makes it take a little bit longer, and going slower obviously makes it take longer. But it's better to have a slow print that comes out well rather than have fast prints that just fail. Be interesting to see how easy this is to get off this bed. In my previous couple of prints I did on this, it was pulling the blue painter's tape off here. Okay, let me have a look. Yep, make sure it hasn't shifted. Just watch the edge lines, make sure the nozzle isn't trying to print over the edge. Right, I'll turn off the camera and I'll come back in about half an hour or so. 4.5 hours into this print, so there will be about another hour left, give or take a bit. Cura said 5 hours 21 minutes, but I've known it to be quite a bit optimistic. Let me check the temperature on the device I've got inside the shoe box, and it's 48, 49, is it 48? Yeah, 49, so slightly over 48 degrees, and it is quite warm, generally speaking, the weather that is. Yeah. So I'm talking about the temperature almost inside the unit, inside this box, and I can feel quite a bit of warmth coming from underneath and from out the holes here, so it shows that the fan is working. It's doing that. Fan inside, that is. I'm not on about the big fan here. It's just more of a filter fan. Printing well. See the Z auto tramming moving up and down there to allow for any out of bed level, whatever you want to call it, not being totally level on the printer bed. Okay, let's stop the camera and I'll come back in approximately half an hour. I'm only going to do approximately. It's 5 hours 11 minutes into this print. Cura said it would be 5 hours 21 minutes. So according by Cura there should be 10 minutes left, but I can tell you looking at that print there's more than that. But that's what I expected, to be honest with you, because Cura only estimates the time. A bit out of focus there. So 47, 48. When it's going between one and the other there is sort of usually, if it's 48 to 49, it would be 48 and a half as approximation. For me that's a little bit warm. And that is with this box. Yes, I can feel quite a bit of warmth coming out from underneath it. That's with this box stood on this old like control unit for video tape deck, I think it's for. So this temperature gauge is just actually going into the silver thing there, the voltage drop down unit here. There's a wire, you might just see the wire going in here. Opening the lid like that will let some of the heat out. There is quite a, yeah, that's pretty hot, that wood. That's up to its like higher temperature, that when I feel it. It's too hot for my liking. So I'm going to look into getting a 12 volt power supply there. I think that would be better in a number of ways. Give me more amperage to work with on the 12 volt, or well, on that side, on the pure 12 volt side. And basically it'll be just the heat sort of pad, I think. Then that will be powered off the 24 volt. Still going well. I estimate it's got probably about another half hour to complete this. It's got to put something like almost wings on each part of this with holes in. I'm probably going to come back in half an hour or so. So I'm going to put that down at 48 degrees and we walk 5 hours 15 minutes. As I say, I reckon there's going to be another half hour to do yet. So I'll turn off the camera for now. I'll come back in about 20 odd minutes, I think. Well, it's 5:40, nearly enough 5:40. As well check the temperature while I'm here. This is the temperature of the unit that's inside my shoebox that drops down 24 volts to 12 volts to power the ramps and the LEDs and the fans. It is at 48. Still printing fine. Now Corvette said it would be 5 hours 21 minutes, and with 5 hours 38 minutes to be precise on the display. Looking at it, it probably could take even another half hour yet. I think I said half an hour earlier. I was only just guessing. There is a slight bit of stringing between the gap there where the escape bearing is going to go. And and that skate bearing will press against the filament. But the string is not too bad. By the way, retractions, I think if I remember right, I will put them on here, set 40 millimeters a second. That's high for an E3D version 6 golden feed hot end. So far as I know, that's high. But it seems to cope well with that setting on the retractions. So I doubt if I'll be changing that. As I say, this does have supports on, particularly down this front bottom edge there. So it's like incorporate supports where they touch the build plate. Zoomed out a bit there because this camera can get out of focus if I zoom in too much. Going well. Still at 48 degrees on the unit inside my shoebox. 5 hours 40 minutes now. So I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll come down in quarter of an hour. Well, it's 5:56. So that's about 4 minutes off 6 hours. This printer's been going and it's still got a bit to go. It's got the tops of these, a couple of holes coming in there. It's got the tops to put on them. Once it's done that, basically it's going to be finished. Light on a bit. Let me have another look at this temperature. 42. So it seems to have gone down a bit there. So it does seem to vary, I'm not sure why. Maybe just that it's doing a bit less work, so to speak. Like as it's only doing like this top part here, it's not moving so far. To be honest, I don't know why. I think I'm going to give it another 10 minutes or so. So I'll turn the camera off for 10 minutes, then I'll come back. Well, it's finished and the time on the display is 6 hours 9 minutes. Cover said 5 hours 21 minutes, so a bit more than half an hour over that. Tiny bit of string going across there. Let me see what temperature. The bed's still on 64, so it's not been finished very long. I've just come down now to check it. And it looks like quite a good model to me. I cannot see any warping on this. I'm going to let it cool down before I try to take it off this blue painter's tape here. So I'm going to give that quarter an hour or so. I'll turn off the camera and then I'll come back. Just let me show you from this side. So this is like a hinge pin, skateboard bearing in here. This is just a lever to help you open and close it and such like. As a pin goes through this the whole pin goes through there, a bolt, and that hooks onto the main body of the quick release belt feeder system that I'm trying to put together. Right, I'll come back in about quarter an hour when this has cooled down, maybe 10 minutes, quarter an hour. Just before I go, you can hear the noise level with this silent 8 sort of computer fan in there. Let me turn this off. This is extremely quiet, this one. Let me turn that off so you know it is only this one. Nice and quiet. Can't feel any heat now, so that heat has stopped coming out. All the fans are still on. Yep, I can see the fans, well, the blare of the fans anyway. So this has cooled down, no more warm air coming out. So as you see, 6 hours 9 minutes. Right, let that bed cool down a bit and then come back. Well, quite a bit of time has passed. Oops, there goes the focus when I zoom in. I've given it plenty of time to cool down. Let's see how easy this is to get off. Yes, it has pulled up the blue painter's tape, as you see, but pretty good. Trying to show you from the edge. Does it look warped? Not to me. Actually, it looks almost concave there, looking in the camera, but maybe not. Right, I'm going to remove the main supports here, and then I'm going to probably try it on the part, well, the other part I've got, put the bearing in and see how well it fits. Mainly this video is about doing a sort of temperature test, a fan noise test and such like of the silent 8 fan I've got. Now, personally myself, I think I am going to probably get a 12 volt power supply to power the ramps. So there'll be 2 power supplies in my box then. Well, I might, well, more than likely I will be after a new box eventually. But there'll be 2 power supplies to 24 volt. That's what's in there now. And instead of this unit that knocks down to 24 to 12 volts but produces quite a lot of heat, another one of these but 12 volts. So this is 24, but there'll be another one 12 volts. That's the plan, I think. I'll do sort of show this on the lid here. So see, you've got 12 to 24 volt. Solid state relay.